So we've just had the World Congress, and we're now looking at the period leading up to the next World Congress in Korea in 2026. And at the moment at ICMDA HQ, we're just about to start our series of board meetings leading up to the main board meeting on the 13th of December this year, when the strategy and budget for the next year will be introduced and agreed. So now is an opportunity really just to bring you up with our thinking at this stage and get your input back in small groups on various aspects of this as we go forward to that process. So just thinking back to the time that we had in UAE together last year, and you remember Augustine's talk on the big trends in the world, the changing relationship with our planet. Will there be another pandemic? We don't know, but it's had a huge impact on health. Wars and their impact, which we're seeing now economically and in relations between nations, the uncertainty, active Islamic groups, migration, so the huge diaspora of peoples all around the world, and particularly students and doctors training, economic and geopolitical shifts in societal values in the West, the rise of woke culture with the promotion of LGBT and particularly transgender identity, the huge growth of science and technology, the advent of ChatGPT and so on. And then against the backdrop of all of this, the Lord is building his church, gathering them from every nation. We're seeing extraordinary growth in the church. And we don't know what the future holds, but we know that God holds the future and that he will lead us and guide us in it. So this is our pyramid. What guides us at the top is our vision, which shapes our mission, which is fed into by our values, and then generates our goals and strategies and initiatives as we go forward. And you're all very familiar with this, our inspiration, the Lord, and our logo, and our vision, mission, and particularly our focus to train, develop, and mentor Christian medical and dental leaders. As we've been hearing from Augustine, the real importance of identifying our students and starting young with them and giving them responsibilities and jobs to do to help them to grow. If you look after the leaders, then the national movements and the international movements will look after themselves. Now, we've been working also on our values within ICMDA, and we have had a consultation process and come up and crystallized 6 values that really describe what we stand for. Firstly, what we believe, that we are missional. We're concerned about the Great Commission, about Revelation 7, seeing people from every nation, about being witnesses in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria until the ends of the earth. We're building God's kingdom in medicine by God's grace. And then secondly, we are biblical. Our foundation is the word of God, the Old and New Testaments through which God speaks today, his living word. What we do, at the heart of what we do is equipping, first of all, so training and resourcing mature disciples through everything that we do, presenting everyone mature in Christ, that favorite phrase of Paul the Apostle. And then service, demonstrating the love of Christ in practical ways through our medicine and dentistry for the marginalized, particularly those who most struggle to get good care. And then how we do it, first of all, that we are united in vision, mission, and strategy. We're all bought into it. And that's a great witness. Jesus prayed for his disciples to be one so that the world would know that he was sent. And then diversity, that we are hugely diverse in terms of personality, life experience, gifting, characters, and God uses us all together. Every single one is important. That's the beautiful picture of the church. So those are our 6 values, and we hope that you'll memorize and learn all of those and speak about them when you talk, and that we will demonstrate them and they will shape us as we go forward. And when we think about our priorities, we've been reminded already by Alex about Jesus going out to pray in a solitary place and his devotional time, but also that he had a very, very clear sense of priorities, didn't he? That as Jorge was telling us, the key thing is to sort out your priorities. And within ICMDA in our ministry, we have global priorities, regional priorities, national priorities, and also personal priorities. And God has plans for all of these. And we're focusing today much more on the global priorities, but there'll be a chance to talk about regional priorities in your groups. So our three strategic priorities: establishing new movements, strengthening existing ones, developing servant leaders. You know all that really well. And how this process works is that the senior team has already been reflecting on priorities for the next 3 years. We are presenting it to you today in terms of seeking your input and discussion in small groups particularly. And then over the next couple of months, the regional secretaries and the AEOs will submit their work plans and budgets for 2024, and they will feed into the budget to be agreed on the 13th of December. And then the various board subcommittees meet. The two most important ones are the Strategy Committee on the 6th of November and the Finance Committee on the 22nd of November, followed by the exec, and then the board considers all those recommendations on the 13th of December and decides on our plan for the next year. And then the board also at that meeting will consider the strategy and budget for the next 3 years, not to set it in stone, but to have an idea of the direction. And of course, we don't know if there's another pandemic or another Ukraine war, or what will happen in Israel, or what there'll be worldwide recession. We just don't know. And so we have to plan knowing that there are many things that the Lord knows that we don't, and be adaptable and listening to his voice as we go. But it's important to set a strategy and a budget. And these are the 9 priorities that I've pulled out of what's going to shape our next year. And I won't go through them on this slide, but you can, all the presentation is available in the folder at the end. We'll send you a link for that, and you can download it and study it at your leisure later on. But I'll go through each one of these 9 quickly. So firstly, right at the heart of what we do is you guys, our field workers from all over the world. And over the next 3 years, we'll be holding virtual summits like this twice a year. And we're planning also to hold 2 residential summits. We're meant to have them every 2 years. It was a 3-year gap to the last one, but we're wanting to get back into the 2-year. And we're thinking about November this next year, 2024, either the first or second week. We'll clarify that with you once we've decided. We're currently looking for a venue that works for people. And then the summit in 2026 will almost certainly be combined with the World Congress, that we will come together a couple of days before the Congress and meet. We're looking to recruit more paid staff. Now, field workers are in general tent makers who raise their own support, but 5 of our field workers are now paid. And the reason for that is not because they are special and privileged, but because they work much, much longer hours. Some of them work almost full time for ICMDA, not just in their spare time. And so we do pay them part-time to do that. We've also got 4 support workers in administrative roles who are paid, like Basker and David, the 2 who you will know the best. There's also an accountant working with us and an editor on Doctors Life Support, and someone working on the Diploma of Health Care Management as well. That's Jason. But as we go forward and the work grows, and it is growing astronomically, we will need to have more people in part-time paid roles as we go forward. But we're also looking to expand our volunteer program in way beyond just field workers. We've just appointed the first cluster coordinators for training tracks in the East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania cluster. And we're training track facilitators. We've got many dozens of them now who are volunteers as well. There's also saline trainers, translators, people who lead DMM, and global interest groups I'm going to talk about shortly. And with this expansion of people, there's a need for better processes for recruitment, orientation, support, and training. So that's number one, expanding our staff and volunteer programs. Number two, developing our training programs. So our webinars, 170 so far, training tracks, 100 on 8 themes. We're appointing cluster coordinators, but we want to develop new tracks as well for other topics. There's just some of them mentioned there, but there are others, and we need to think carefully about what the priorities are in terms of new tracks. Saline, we've gone from having no multiplying trainers 4 years ago to having 25 now, and now looking to appoint cluster coordinators there and regional coordinators for DMM. So it'll be more of the same with training programs. The Lord led us to this through COVID, and they're a very important part of our program now. Next, growing our publications and resources. At the moment, we have the regular things that come out, the 3-monthly prayer diary, the website, the blog, the e-news monthly e-news, and the self-learning training site, conference videos and podcasts, webinar videos and resources, and Doctors Life Support 5 are all already there, but Doctors Life Support 5 is going to be translated altogether into 9 languages, and we'll shortly be starting on the production of Doctors Life Support 6 for the World Congress in Korea. Josh has just produced a new global map, which will make available to everyone in hard copy and in electronic copy as well. And there's a whole new set of PowerPoint graphics that we'll be working on. And we're wanting to put together a new section on the website where we start to put all of these orders together in topics. So everything on global health, everything on abortion, everything on sexuality, everything on evangelism and apologetics will be available on individual pages that you can go and find videos, downloads, booklets, webinars, all those sort of things together to help you resource people. Number 4, global interest groups. And this idea really came from the IFES. We visited them. They're bigger than us, 75 years old in 160 countries against 60 years and 107 countries. And they've set up a whole lot of networks globally of people who have a particular interest in one issue of ministry to work together across the regions. And they've done this largely by finding things that have been really well developed in one region and making them global. So the question is, what's God particularly put on your heart? Who else carries this burden? What are you doing in your region that could be done in other regions? What is a shared task that you could do with other field workers and volunteers around the world? And I've listed there 6 of the things that have been very much on our hearts. International students, expatriate doctors and dentists, the diaspora people, throughout the Middle East particularly, that this is huge because most of the Christians are expatriates. The challenge of Islam, we're seeing that again this week, aren't we? Advocacy, the readers group that Santosh has just set up, areas of relief and development. There may be other areas, but what's God particularly put on your heart in terms of a global interest that you would be willing to join a working group on and help us all across the world? Number 5, recruiting new national movements. And I put here the 6 target areas because these are the areas that have a lot of particularly grey and blue countries and orange countries. You all know what those mean: individual contacts or no contacts, or national groups not yet affiliated. And these are really the areas that we're praying into now over the next 3 years. And we'd love to see many of these countries joining ICMDA, but we need to be intentional and focused and working towards it together. And so you can see them there, the Caribbean, Middle East, North Africa, Central Europe and the Balkans, the Horn of Africa that Alex has been talking about, Southeast Asia, they're all orange there, but there's a big potential. And then, of course, the huge Pacific region, Edwin and Sheena traveling to Fiji just in the near future to build links there, recruiting national movements. Developing our diploma courses. So we have the 2-year Diploma of Family Medicine. It's now in its 4th annual cohort. The 5th starts in January. Bookings close at the end of October. So if you want to do this or encourage others to do it, that's the closing date. You've got 2 more weeks to book for that course. 140 students from 40 countries so far. And we're translating this course into French, Spanish, and Russian to be launched in 2025. There'll be new language centers needed for that. And then this new diploma that Santosh and Jason are working on together with a team, the Diploma of Healthcare Management. There are about 2,000 church and mission hospitals in Africa and Asia alone. Most of them do not have trained managers, and there's a huge need for people to be able to study on the job to do this 2-year diploma, which we're launching in January 2025. Number 6, growing our organizational partnerships. We've already got a number of key partners who we work with. And the key thing about any partner is that there must be a shared task and ministry, and also belief, doctrinal basis as well, that we're on the same page in terms of what we're doing for the kingdom. And we draw up memorandums of understanding with these groups, and we're currently working on an MOU with IFES because we think there's huge potential there in terms of doing student work together and finding medical students. So we want to grow our organizational partnerships. Developing our relief work. It's a big question mark here for the board to consider. We didn't plan the Ukraine war. We certainly didn't plan our project there. We didn't know what we were getting into. And now, 18 months later, with 2 lorry loads a month still going, with almost $1 million raised in terms of money, and with millions of dollars worth of equipment given to us and lots of partners, we're asking this question, Lord, what do you want us to do with this? Should we just draw a line under Ukraine and say, right, that's it, no more relief work? Do we carry on with Ukraine? Do we move beyond the relief stage into the rebuilding stage? But what about all of the other places around the world? Might God have led us to all these partners and all this support in order that we might be actually helping in other places as well? We know there's many needy areas. So that's a big question. And then finally, number 9, hosting the World Congress in Jeju Island, South Korea. And if you haven't got the dates in your diary yet, please put them down. And as I said, save a few days before that as well, because there will be a Fieldworker Summit around that time as well in the same venue. We can see real sense in combining meetings to save costs, particularly at the time when air costs are so much more. This is a jointly hosted. There's 2 national movements affiliated with ICMDA in South Korea, the KCMA and the KCMF working together. The KCMA one has all the older graduates. The KCMF has all the students. That's the one that Hedwin visited with 700 students at the conference. We want to get over 1,000 people. We'll need a big bursary fund. Again, at least the size of the last one, $250,000. And like every World Congress, this will target certain areas of the world. And we really have our eye on the East and Southeast Asia regions, but particularly China, because Jeju Island has visa-free entry to, I think it's around 160 different countries altogether. This is why we've chosen the venue, and Chinese can go there. And you know the challenge that is in terms of geopolitical issues as well. But God is doing great things in China, and we believe there are many more Christian doctors and medical students there who could be involved and engage. So we've formed a steering committee. We've got speakers and breakout leaders to be confirmed still. And then so that's global priorities, but this big question, and you'll be discussing this later, and we can't do everything. We've heard about priorities. So what are you going to do? What would you like to develop in your region in terms of growing and training your regional team? Are there gaps? Do you need new ARs? Do you need coordinators of training, facilitators? Which countries are you going to focus on recruiting and developing? Have you got particularly grey or blue countries where we're just starting off? What about the more mature ones? Maybe some are going backwards and need help. What events are you going to host and support? What training are you going to run? How are you going to rank these priorities? If you can't do everything, what do you decide to do first? What volunteers and staff do you need, and what resources do you require? So those are the questions. And then finally, of all, it's our personal priorities as well. And for each one of us in our work with ICMDA this year, we cannot do everything. So we need to be very careful in what we choose. And these are the questions for you. What people are you going to prioritize? Who are the perhaps just the 3 or 4 real inner circle people where you're going to invest a lot of time helping to encourage them, serve them this year? What's your wider circle? What events are you going to attend? Get them in your diary now. What regional events, national events are the most strategic for you to go to as a field worker and do the kind of things that we've heard earlier today from Hedwin and Yasuko and Diana and Alex in terms of making real use of those events. What trips are you going to make? Who are you going to visit? What training will you be involved in? And maybe that last question, what imbalance in your life do you need to address? Are there areas of your life that are out of control because you're putting too much time into them? Is there some balance? Are your priorities not quite right? So there we are. That's looking forward to the next 3 years.